For this project, you will need linen fabric or any other punch needle fabric of your choosing. I've used a 9-inch Morgan no slip hoop, so I used about 13 by 13 inches square for this. A 9-inch embroidery hoop, tapestry needle, paper scissors to cut your design, really great sharp scissors to sculpt and cut your yarn, lots of yarn, and of course, punch needle. Let's get started. So the first thing we have to do is transfer our design onto our fabric. So we're going to stretch our fabric into the hoop. This is the no slip hoop. That is the best for punching because it keeps the fabric really stretched the whole time. Regular embroidery hoop will not do that for you. So I highly recommend this guy. And what I do is I put the fabric in and then just work my way around until it is really tight. I go around and then tighten a little bit and then go around some more to see if anything else excuse me, needs tightening. This is actually pretty good. So I just want to make sure that this is all snapped in where it's supposed to be, and we tighten. So we're going to be working from both sides of the hoop. Our sculpting part will be on this side, which means we will have to punch from the back, which is how punching is usually done. So all we do is we're going to transfer, but we're only going to transfer the bird because the flowers will be embroidered. So the flowers will actually be transferred from the front. Okay, we can set that aside and grab our punch needle for the birdie. So for sculpting, you want to have a really high pile on the other side. So I'm going to go to the very last setting, so I have my longest tip set. And I'm just going to thread the needle, just like so. And then you can work with whatever needle you have, just make sure it's on the longest setting. We're going to start with the wing. And we're going to sculpt it first, and then we're going to go to the rest of the bird. So when you're punching for sculpting, you want to punch really close together so you have a really dense area on the other side. So about every second hole. If you're using a thicker yarn, you can adjust based on that. You will not need to punch so closely together if you have bulky size yarn, for example. You can turn your work however it's most comfortable for you to punch. I have a tendency to rotate my hoop so that I am mainly going from right to left, but some people prefer to go, you know, from the bottom up or from top down, whatever feels comfortable. Just make sure that your opening of the needle is always in the direction where you're punching. And then if you need to switch it, you just turn your needle while it's inside and then punch like so. So when you're punching, the basics are you want to go all the way down, push your needle all the way down. And when you come up for air, you don't want to lift your needle too much because then you'll have a loop here. So if that happens, you'll just pull your needle and then reset. So it's the tip of the needle should be always flush with the fabric as you're punching, and you're moving forward and you're basically sliding the tip of the needle on the fabric. So now we have this fluff here. What I usually like to do when I have a shape to fill out, I do an outline and then I continue in a circular motion or pattern inwards. And I do that until it's all filled in. In the smaller areas, make sure you don't over punch. It's really easy to put way too many stitches, and you know, if you're just doing punch needle, it'll come out really warped. If you're punching for sculpting, you might be able to get away with that because we're going to be cutting everything on the other side. So I'm just gonna continue like this until the whole wing is filled in. I also have my yarn here and I'm pulling from the center, so that way the whole skein is not dancing all over the table, and I can just pull from the center. It's easiest to do it that way. All right, so I'm just gonna finish the wing and I'm gonna meet you when I'm done. All right, so now that we're done, we're gonna flip our work over. Take our amazing scissors. These are Kai scissors, my best, I think the best scissors for sculpting, honestly. Okay, so we have this blob right now, and we're going to sculpt it. So if you're not sure what the shape is like, you can sort of squish the yarn a little bit to see where we are. You can flip it over to see, I see this is where the flatter side of the wing is, and this is the more of a wiggly side here. So what I like to do is take my scissors and just do a slightly angled cut at first, just to get those loops that are at on the edge. Move this out of the way. And you don't have to worry right now about getting the squiggly side perfect. We're gonna get to that later. I also like to have a small vacuum with me when I sculpt, as well as a face mask, because I don't like to breathe all this acrylic in. So this is the first round of cut. This is what it'll look like. It'll have sort of like just scruffy, you know, loops around. So I'm gonna make another cut, and I'm just gonna go closer to the bases, and I'm just gonna go perpendicular to the shape. You don't want to go too close because then you might snip the fabric, which is the worst case scenario, or you might snip the bases of the loop, in which case you can always repunch and resculpt again, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, this is okay for the first. We can clean that up later. Now we're going to, we have flatter sides here, and now we're going to move up a little bit and angle our scissors this way. And we're only trimming the ends of the loops. You don't want to go too deep because you're going to lose the shape. So we're just going on the surface. You can use the edge of the scissors to sort of get the mess off the hoop. So now we're getting a little bit more of that dome shape here. And so we're just going to continue moving the scissors upwards and angling them until we're flat on the top. So we were just about here, so we can actually go pretty flat right now. And first do a cut so that your surface is somewhat even. Don't worry about loops that are staying uncut because you will always have those. And how we're going to fix that, you can grab your scissors and just pick on those loops, cut through them, and then trim them to the height of the rest of the loops around them. If you wanted to leave this looking a little bit variegated, so it's not just all trimmed. You can actually leave some loops as they are, and that way you will have some sort of a color variation, because as you're noticing, the yarn as we're cutting it, it's getting darker. But if you want a little bit of fluff, like feathers wouldn't all be the same color, right? So you can leave some of the loops. It's actually pretty fun. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna go grab my vacuum, and I'm going to vacuum this. Okay, after you vacuum, you're gonna notice some of the strays that the vacuum pulled out, which is actually super helpful. So now I'm going to go around the shape and perfect it. So here, this is the wiggly part. No, this is the straight part. This is the wiggly part. Okay, so I'm gonna go straight around here and closer. And you can see how the shape is much more defined now. Okay, so this is where the wiggles come in. You can move the loops around just to see where you need to cut a little bit more. Sometimes I like to go like this, right in between the wiggle, and it'll create that sort of a wavy effect. Okay, I always like to push the loops and pile in the direction that I'm trying to cut, so I can see what's still kind of hanging over that section. Because if you push it this way, yes, this is great, but the second someone touches it, it's going to become misshapen. So I'm going to give this a trim here, and now sort of go around to make it more wiggly. So here's another one. 1 and 2. Careful with the tip of your scissors so you don't cut your fabric. This is pretty good. I'm going to leave this as is, and I'm going to punch the rest of the body to see how the yarn around the wing will react with this. It'll probably push some of the pile up higher, so we can adjust later on. Okay, so I have my punch needle in the same setting, and I'm just going to grab the darker yarn, and I'm going to punch the whole body in the same way. So we're punching about every second hole, going all the way down. You don't have to worry about the beak, the eye, or the legs. We're going to do those from the front actually, so we can disregard as we punch. If at any time you feel like you've punched incorrectly, or you pulled out too much or whatever, you can always pull out your loop and then adjust your yarn again until it is not loopy here, and then continue punching. Alright, so now we're done with the body. Snip our last stitch. And this is what we have. Here's our birdie. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with the wing. We're going to do a cut around first. You can push on your fabric from the bottom a little bit to raise your loops. Just don't do it too much because you might snip too much. Okay. Now around here, I'm just going to snip a little bit. I don't want too much of a dent there, so to speak. Just with the tips. Okay. And now I'm going to continue angling the scissors as I'm going upwards. All right, I think it's time for some vacuum. You don't have to worry, your loops will not come out when you're vacuuming. It's okay. So now I'm going to push all these to the outer side so I can do another cut. And I'm going to do shape cut again. And I'm going to go in a different direction here so I can access this little corner. Okay, now I'm going to go around again. And as I'm moving up, I'm going to push on this a little bit to expose the tips of the loops. And again, if you want to leave it looking, more textured, you can leave some loops uncut again. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to worry about cutting the loops here before I worry about the whole shape. Okay, now I see there's some loops here in the wing that are a bit too long. Pull them out and snip. Okay, I'm gonna go around by the wing and angling a little bit, not a whole lot, just so I'm getting the ends of the body color. So you can see how it's much better defined now. And I have a couple there that I can sew just with the tips of my scissors, really doing just like a surface cutting there. Okay, now I'm going to continue around a little bit just to clean up these bad boys that are sticking out. It helps to go in opposite direction of cutting because you're exposing loops that have been pushed this way with the scissors, see? If you go this way, they're gonna come out. So you can continue cleaning up. Biggest issue will be knowing when to stop. For the body, I'm actually looking for most of the loops, but you don't have to. So I think the shape looks pretty good. It can be a little scruffy because, you know, it's a bird. So do whatever you want. You're the artist. So this is what it's going to be like. This is the body. We're going to have the legs here. I'm going to continue on the wing now. There's going to be nothing around here in terms of yarn. So I really need to clean this up to whatever shape I want it to have. And I don't know if I explained this in the beginning, but the reason we're angling the scissors is because we're going for that dome shaped body and wing, and just all of the shapes are like that, unless you want a different shape. So here I'm also going to go a little bit down towards the tip so that I have a dome going this way, and more of that cut here so that we can tell that we have that wiggly thing going here on the wing. Okay, a little bit more surface cut. Like I said, it's really hard to know when to stop. It's easier to cut less at a time and, you know, do more cuts than cut too much at once and then regret it. Okay, I think, because I won't know until I see the whole thing, but I think this is good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out the flowers in the sun, and we're going to transfer them onto here, and then go from there. Okay, I've decided I'm going to do the eye first. So I'm going to go one setting down, and I have this lovely indigo color here that I'm going to thread through. You can use black, but you know, I mean, why not have some fun, right? All right, so we're literally just making one loop here, which is going to be fun. So we can approximately right there, and just pull this and just do one loop, and then pull back, hold it on the other side, snip here, leave a little yarn hanging so it doesn't come through, and then I'm going to snip this here. And then what you can do to adjust the eye, you can grab this and just pull on it a little bit until you like how deep it is in there. What you can also do is you can lightly trim around the eye so the area is a little bit lower and the eye sort of stands out. Just don't cut into the eye. I mean, if you do, you can always repunch, not a big deal. Pull on it a little bit more. we are. Has a little V-shaped eye, so I'm gonna move that and connect the two. Come on. You can take your scissors and just move it around until, and snip, because that's the end. There we go. Perfect. So now we can transfer our sun. I'm going to put this underneath here and just up. Ooh, it could have mustard legs. It's a birdie, right? Okay, so embroidery now. We don't have to have super long loop set because the loops will be on the other side and we won't see them. So you can go down to about this. You don't want to go also super low because your loops will not stay in and it will come out, especially this only has like a couple of stitches. So let's see where the beak is approximately. You can probably tell the Sharpie from the other side where it is. So we're just going to mark it right there. And I'm going to go in and pull the end to the other side. And then I'm going to go left. Now this is going to be fun. And then I'm going to go right. And then I'm going to go into the center. So I made like a little triangle. We're going to snip here. And we have a beak. There are my legs. 1, 2. So I'm going to keep this. And actually what I'm going to do is like a regular punch needle, because if we did just one stitch, it'll be kind of, you know, too loose. So I'm going to do regular punch needle for 1. Snip here. And the same thing here. And snip here. Oh, yay! So much better. All right, let's work on these flowers down here next. So what I'm going to do, I threaded my needle with the brighter yellow color, and I'm just going to go and I'm just going to punch the centers. And your setting doesn't have to be super long for this. Mine is a bit longer than I should have it. I'm going to go one down just so we don't waste yarn, because really all you're doing is wasting yarn because it's on the other side and you won't be able to see it, right? So, all right, now that we're done with the centers, we can do the petals. So the petals we're going to do with, again, embroidery. You can do them as loops if you want to. That would be fun. So I'm just going to go and punch in the center and pull the end to the other side. And then readjust a little bit. And so now we're just going to do straight stitches basically. So we're going to go up. And then I like to turn my needle and then go back to the center and sort of follow each petal shape like so. Now I'm going to go to the next one and just want to make sure you overlap the marker so it's not visible. See, I missed it here, so I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to redo it. You can rearrange your fabric. And then I'm going to go back and forth, and just keep following the shape. Look how cute this is. And on the other side, all you have are these random loops, right, at the end and at the beginning. So you won't have super defined petals if you're doing this technique. If you want to have super defined petals, then you'll either need to sculpt them or punch them, or you can also do like a regular embroidery around to make them more defined. But I like this, how the flower is sort of, you know, imperfect, but so cute. I love how textured it gets. And just fluffy and when you're punching too much in one spot, it can get a little too much. So sometimes you can punch sort of close to it, but not quite. Okay, so we're done here. I'm going to pull a bit of the yarn out from the needle so we have a longer tail. Look at this. Isn't that cute? Okay, here's the green. And I'm going to continue the same in the same fashion. I'm keeping the embroidery the same, but the colors will be different. Okay, the flowers are done. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this a little bit stronger because I want to punch this from the other side. And in order for me to do that, I need to see where that outline is. So I'm just gonna set my needle to one of the shorter settings. I'm gonna have 4 of the ridges sticking out. I don't know what the best way is to explain this. And I'm just going to punch. When you have a shorter setting on, you really have to make shorter stitches because your loops on the other side will not be super long. So just want to make sure that you don't have any gaps there. So the shorter the tip of the needle, the shorter your stitches. So these shouldn't be too long, right? Like every 4 holes, every other holes at the most. Other hole, not holes. And I'm just gonna go and punch this in a circular motion, just like I did the bird. So, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, now I have a little space here, but I'm going to check the other side. I don't need to punch that. It'll be overdone if I do. So I'm just going to snip my stitch here. Okay, that's cute. I like that. We're going to have a variation of things on this. So then we're going to do the rays. And I was debating what the best way to do this would be so that I would actually like it and it would be easier to punch. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sort of an outline around the sun and then go and make each ray. Okay, so with the long stitches, it's really tricky because when you make a long stitch, the loop will want to come out because it doesn't have really anything else around it to hold it in, just like these do. So you will need to have your setting really long on your needle for that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna punch to the base of the ray, then I'm gonna go and punch the ray, and make sure your yarn is really flowing easily for this. And then I'm going to turn my needle while it's inside and turn back. Okay, then I'm going to make a small stitch so the sun will have sort of an outline, and I'm not punching into the same hole for every sun ray or a couple of sun rays. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to make a stitch to the next ray. And these, the length of these, you know, you can do whatever you want pretty much. I made them shorter. I didn't want to go too close to the bird, but if you want to go longer here, just make sure your loops won't come out when you do that. Okay, I'm going to make a stitch to the next one. I can go longer on this a bit. Come back, stitch to the next one, and just continue. I'm going to do 2 here because it was a little further apart. And you can, you know, you don't have to follow this exactly. You can do one in between if you want. I'm gonna make this one a little longer. And then come back. Just see how much I can get away with, right? And then about here and back. And then make a couple here and then here. And my cat is here. And finished with 1 more stitch there. And I'm gonna pull out a little bit more yarn. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to transfer this finished piece into a hoop and how to display it. So we're just going to take this out. Leave this for the next project. Okay, so here's my 9-inch hoop. I grabbed the wrong size before. And I'm going to align to make sure that it is somewhat I was going to use the 8-inch, but it's much smaller than I thought for some reason. And this doesn't have to be stretched, you know, like when you're punching. It just needs to fit within the hoop and it needs to look sort of, you know, stretched, but it doesn't have to be stretched to the max. As long as it's in. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we need a tapestry needle and just like a random piece of yarn. This is about half a yard. And we're going to finish the back of this. So I'm going to cut all these corners. So we're going to have about 2 inches, 1.5 inches around the hoop. It doesn't have to be perfect. So grab a neutral color. You can do a white or a cream. We've used white here, so, or I have. If you've used white, then you can use that. This is the easier way to do it, Andy. Here we are, pretty close. Okay, and then you're going to take off your needle, and what you're going to do is you're going to tie these two and then pull, pull, pull. So it pulls your fabric together. I like to tie a bow if I decide to, you know, change something or whatnot. But look, how cute. You can hang this on your wall. You can cut off more of the fabric if you'd like. You can put felt in here and sort of, you know, secure it that way if you want. You can cut a piece of cardboard in the circle in that size and push it in so it holds everything in. You can use one of these fancy hoops. I don't have the right size for this, but this is a really cute way to display it. And yeah, we're done. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you make yours. If you do, please tag me on social media so I can see. And if you have any questions, let me know.